Live from the Findlay Toyota studio, you're listening to ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, here we go. Cofield and Company here on a Monday. Jeff Parles is here. James is steering the ship. Big show on the way. A lot more Raider reaction to the preseason beginning on Thursday. Joint practice coming up tomorrow. So we'll get into that. A lot more examination of Fernando Mendoza. Big news, maybe as big as the original news with the Lakers and ownership. So we'll get to that in 15 minutes. And then A's baseball coming up later on. Our UNLV report, we do that at 5. Check that, 3:30. And then around 5:30 as Caleb Herring, former UNLV quarterback, will be on with us. What's going on, Jeff?
It's good. It was a good weekend. It was nice to not feel like I was going to be bacon frying in the pan when going outside over the weekend. It was nice. But, you know, it's good to be back in studio. And, you know, I didn't watch a ton of preseason football this weekend, Cofield. I even screwed up what time the Jet game started on Friday. That's probably the first time in my life I've done that. But watching the Raiders, at least while players that very well may make an impact right away were on the field on Thursday night, it was nice to have even exhibition football back. It was nice to have it back.
It's kind of interesting with the shorter slate of preseason games. So we kind of get to it right away. I mean, they're not going to play the entire game, your starters, but they got to get out there for a little bit. So let's look at Kirk Cousins first and how he operated with the ones.
Totally solid. Totally solid. No mistake, no bad throws. Good decisions on third down. That was really the biggest thing for me in this game. And honestly, both offenses, when guys that might actually see the field were on the field. So for Arizona, the one drive for Brissett, the Gardner Minshew drives. For the Raiders, the Cousins opening drive and Fernando's few drives. Everybody looked like everyone did what they were supposed to do. They looked like they're in command of their offenses. The defenses looked awful, which we'll get to the Raider defense a little bit later, and maybe that depth, that rookie depth that we thought may potentially be there for them in the secondary. We might have to slow our roll a little bit. But I liked how Kirk looked. He had command of the offense. Again, you're not showing anything in these games. But the fact that Jack Bash had 3 catches, they were all on third down, including on the opening drive, continued the opening drive, set up the Mendoza drive touchdown and caught the Mendoza drive touchdown. That was a good sign. That was a good sign for a guy who really didn't have it a year ago, and I think is going to have to be a legitimate piece to this Raider offense if they're going to look solid at times. Or honestly, again, Cofield, I'm not changing what I said last week. Raiders could be significantly better and still go 4-13 this year just because of the nature of their schedule. Very possible.
Anything that you didn't like about Mendoza?
For first time out, I mean, I didn't love the sack he took in the circumstance it was, but I don't think it was necessarily his fault. But I thought Fernando was fine. I didn't think he was incredible, but I didn't see anything that I would say, oh, that was really bad. I didn't see anything like that. He made smart decisions when he had to throw the ball away. Again, I thought the Raiders, the one thing that I'll take, and again, I don't overreact to preseason because there's just no point. But I thought the way the Raiders operated on third down was, again, it's Arizona's defense and first and second teamers, and Arizona's first team isn't particularly good. I thought the Raiders operated very well on third down as a whole. And I thought Mendoza's decisions on third down were good as well. So nothing I really would say, hey, stood out as horrible. So it's honestly a good first appearance when you're going back and saying, you know what? I didn't see anything that stood out as a big negative. I'm good with that. You did what you're supposed to do then in the first preseason game.
I think the one negative going back to his scouting before he came into the NFL, the draft analysis was mobility side to side.
Mm-hmm.
And that in college, when you're a big guy, maybe you don't have to pay the penalty for not being a great athlete. I think he's going to have to learn that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would agree.
That the running that he was able to do, and I'm not saying he was out there running all the time, but the scrambling and running he was able to do in college, he's got to learn pretty quickly he can't do that.
No.
He's going to get himself in jeopardy. And hurt. or hurt.
Or both. I mean, again, all in all, Cofield, the only thing that I will really react to in a preseason game is if you come out, like, there's really only one big example of this weekend where, like, let's say your first team offense comes out against a second team defense and you can't move the ball at all. That, I think, is worthy of reacting to. Or you have your first team defense against a second team offense and you can't stop them. Those are the only things I'll really react to. I mean, look, when did the game really slow down on Saturday? Or, excuse me, on Thursday? It was when Aiden O'Connell came in and looked like a third-string quarterback. Keaton Slovis was fine on the Arizona side, but there's 6 points scored in the second half when the players that really are going to make an impact this year were off the field. So, look, all in all, I think nothing of note is a good sign for this team. Nothing negative of note. I mean, the only negative of note is that I think McCoy pretty much showed that he's not ready to play at this point, but he didn't play at all last year in college. So I take that with a grain of salt. All those younger corners had problems on Thursday. But you know what? It's the first time against a different team, a different offense. Let's see how you adjust this upcoming Thursday when the Raiders go on the road to Houston. And I'm curious to see how many guys, what the Texans' rotation is. And if I'm Clint, I'm playing my defensive guys. That I'm doing. I do whatever you want on the offensive side of the ball. I'm willing to defer to whatever he thinks is best. But pretty much everyone but Max has got to be out there on the defensive side of the ball, at least for, I would say, 2 series in this game against Houston. You got to get more reps for that first-team defense as much as you can. Or guys that you think might end up on your first-team defense early in the year.
Every team has a different situation with regards to playing time in the preseason.
Of course. That's what makes it – that's why gamblers think they have such an edge, even though all the line moves got clobbered.
Right.
Got clobbered.
How did they do?
The line moves are awful.
Just everything that's
Everything got clobbered, yes. Everything that got steamed got clobbered, yes. There's always – especially when I'm not involved, I'm okay with seeing that.
Does that add to what some people think of the preseason in betting, which is that you have to be a real degenerate
I'm not
to bet the preseason? Because you just hinted at it in there. Players think they have an advantage. Bettors think they have an advantage. They're not doing it willy-nilly because they're rodding up over football being back. Yeah. They actually bet it because they think they have more information.
Correct.
That things aren't as under wraps as they normally would be during the regular season.
Well, and of course, remember, John Harbaugh had that streak in the preseason that where he never will forget not covering, never lost. And, of course, the Giants come out and lose the first preseason game with him this weekend. Look, Cofield, I've never been a big preseason bettor. I really don't want to burn any money that I might want to use during what is, I mean, let's be real. I'm for my purposes, I love betting college basketball. Not as much recently, but especially when I first moved out here, first few years, loved betting college basketball. And even though it's almost impossible to win, like, everyone enjoys betting on football games. It's just what it is. If you sports bet at all, if you bet at all, you like betting on college football and you like betting on the NFL. It's just what it is. But it's just so hard to win, especially in the NFL, when the book has the exact same amount of there's no information that bettors would have over the books in the NFL. Period. So I don't know. Never been a preseason guy. I did smirk a little bit when I saw that the Steams got clobbered, though. I mean, they got clobbered, Cofield. And even the numbers before the Steam, only 2 of those numbers won of the 6 games that got absolutely steamed this past weekend in the preseason.
Let's build on your comments about Jack Bech, because I think it's really important to kind of go back and review his story.
Yeah.
They should be able to get something out of him.
Yeah.
Because I don't think their scout was that off. And I think that's especially the case physically. He's, 6'1" and 220 pounds. He's got more than enough speed to survive in the National Football League.
Yeah.
Last year was a mental hurdle for him. And I think I think the most important thing was he was still having a lot of trouble getting over the tragic loss of his brother. His brother was killed in that crazy driving incident on Bourbon Street. His brother was playing or had played college football in the past at Princeton. And I think that was a big deal for him. And also coming into a program, we'll call the Raiders a program, that seemed to have mixed goals, right? Hey, we're drafting young guys. We're going to play young guys. We're developing for the future with young guys. And then all of a sudden, Pete Carroll and company and Chip Kelly are like, yeah, we like veterans. So that can be between the passing of his brother and walking to the NFL and kind of not feeling welcome on the team that drafted you with a second-round pick. That's got to be a mind screw.
Yeah, I didn't even put into what I said earlier, the tragic death of his brother Tiger in that incident in the beginning of 2025. But I really think last year on the field had to do with the fact that the Raiders were just so poorly coached last year, especially on offense. And look, I think he's the type of guy that, especially with the youth and the fact, again, that at some point the keys are going to get handed to Fernando, that this is a guy that should be a good, useful piece for this team moving forward. And look, all three of his catches, Cofield, were on third down. And that, to me, that's a very good sign moving forward. A guy with the ability to get open on third down when you need a play. The touchdown that he caught, Fernando's touchdown throw, was not the best of throws. Fernando did throw it in a spot where only Besh could catch it, but it was really low. And he made a really nice play to get low, make the play, and get the touchdown. But look, I think of all the guys on offense, and I know people will point to Kirk Cousins, will point to Fernando Mendoza. I know some might even point to Mike Washington, who had that giant run, and he looked pretty fast on that 53-yard run. I thought he was the most impressive guy on that offense, especially for what he was a year ago, where, again, I think he just ran into a system and a coaching staff that completely failed him a year ago.
Good giveaways today. We got Guns N' Roses tickets coming up in just a second. Later in the show, UNLV football game against Memphis in the Week 0 opener. That's on the way. And I want to remind you, too, in the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to talk to Josh Pastner, head coach of the Runner Rebels, and talk about the schedule that came out last week, non-con, and the new look conference now that the Disloyal 5 have moved on to the Pac-12. 364-1100, caller 7. Guns N' Roses playing in town August 22nd. Heard rave reviews over the weekend for some shows they were doing over the weekend. I don't even know where they were over the weekend, but wherever they were. August 22nd at the Owl, Legion Stadium. You get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Guns N' Roses tickets right now. James got your hookup. Caller 7-364-1100.
You're listening to ESPN Las Vegas from the Findlay Toyota studio.
So last week got wild with the Lakers being sold. Mark Walter in trouble, apparently facing a serious investigation with the feds for some kind of fraud. And he quickly moved on selling the Lakers. Bob Iger and Josh Kushner, that group, that may have been the lead group to get the team here in Vegas. They certainly have the money, right? If the price tag for the team here in Vegas is $7 to $10 billion, they paid $12.5 billion for the Lakers. I mean, obviously an established brand, the best brand in the world in basketball. But you know, something I hadn't realized is that when the buses sold majority stake to the Walter Group, they didn't sell all of their stake. I didn't realize they had this big an ownership hold. Mm-hmm. I know Jeannie was promised to remain around for at least like 3 years as the governor of the organization, but they still own 17.8% of the team, even though they cashed in to the tune of who knows how much, $7 or $8 billion. Well, they sold that share for $10 billion, but they just sold out of the remaining shares.
Well, do you want something else that just came across the wires in the last 10 minutes, Cofield?
Well, that's the crazy part of this. Do tell.
From CNBC.com earlier today, Alex Sherman, actually earlier today, 10 minutes ago, Jeannie Buss is opposing the potential sale of her family stake in the Los Angeles Lakers. Mm-hmm. In a letter obtained by CNBC addressed to law firms representing Jeannie Buss's siblings, her lawyer says Jeannie has not agreed to sell the team and that any vote suggesting the Buss family is selling would be, quote, void. So, this is not the last part of the... This has really been a wild week with this whole thing, right, Cofield? Because Walter, who also owns the Lakers, or excuse me, the Dodgers, I should say, his money has been a big part. Look, the Dodgers always have money, but his money has been a big part of this turn of the Dodgers turning into the George Steinbrenner era Yankees, where it's like we're just going to try to win at all costs. And now, I mean, this whole thing with the investigation with the SEC, right? Like, it's just a totally bizarre story. And it kind of came out like 6 weeks ago, but no one even noticed it. And now it's a big deal because the Lakers have been sold. And I mean, he might not be done selling other stake. He might be selling a stake in the EPL team that he has a piece of. Walter.
You saw that?
Yeah,
he is.
Yeah, so there you go.
That is fact.
So there you go.
That's Chelsea.
Yeah. So
I don't know how much of that he owns, but he's looking to put that on the block.
So there you go. So that's another like that. This whole story is bizarre though. And would it be the Buss family without it just ending, or this, like if they actually do end up selling out of this, that it just ends in just really just a mess?
Some weird lawsuit.
Some bizarro lawsuit with them suing each other. Wouldn't shock me, unfortunately.
2 hours ago, our LA guy from the Sporting Tribune on the Lakers being sold last week, and then the remaining Buss shares, 17.8%, being sold, we thought, today was the announcement. Arash wrote this: Jim, Johnny, Joey, Jesse Buss had the chance to cash in on the record sale of the Lakers and effectively fire Jeannie Buss as governor, and did just that. He says, well, Jeannie has fired and sued all of her brothers since taking control of the team. It's the final act of a wild reality show. We saw some of this stuff in multiple documentaries and kind of reality shows. We know there's some deep-seated feelings. I don't want to make a blanket statement about the four brothers, but they were either incompetent or didn't seem that interested in being entrepreneurial rich guys,
sure.
Right? Like not the hardest workers, and Jeannie kind of took to that and was the more serious one. But your note just a minute ago about Jeannie saying, no. We are not selling. That also comes on the heels of that statement coming out a little while ago. Chris Mannix, who covers the NBA, wrote about a particular line in the family statement to ESPN, quote, "It is time to use this opportunity to move on and exit gracefully."
Oh, boy.
While we still can. He says,
while we still can is in there?
Yeah, he said the, quote, "while we still can" is a heck of a way to end it.
I was going to say, while we still can is...
It ain't over.
Oh, man. I mean, that's the part of it that really catches your attention, doesn't it? While we still can. Oh, man. All right, well, yeah, we haven't seen that. We haven't heard or seen the last of this, Cofield. And I would imagine this will be I was going to say multi-year, but I don't think this will drag on multi-year. But this could very easily be a multi-month whole NBA season thing. I mean, the Kawhi investigation's only now taken 12 months, or 13 months, I should say. So, we'll see.
Yeah, again, to update this, the family voted on it. 5 votes. Check that. 6 votes. Yeah. 5 siblings voted in favor. Just needed 4, right? But now Jeannie, again, this is Sam Amick, who's writing for The Athletic now, attorney for Lakers Governor Jeannie Buss. I know you just read this, but to repeat it again, people tuning in, not knowing what's going on. The attorney says the trust vote to sell is void, arguing legal standing that requires her to be controlling owner on a lifetime basis. Her lawyers demanding that the reps of the trust make it clear.
Yeah.
And do that publicly, that Jeannie is the controlling owner of the Lakers and that they can take no action on this. Vote to sell the 17.8% stake. Hello. The crazy thing is, the stuff going on down the road is wild as well. We'll get you updated on the Clippers in a little bit because there were different news reports and refuting reports, a lot of refuting today with the Clippers and the investigation with the NBA. That's on the way. But up next, our daily UNLV camp report, day 17 in the books, out at the Fertitta Football Complex. It was Special Teams Day.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
So today was day 17 of preseason camp for UNLV and the Rebels, and they'll go behind closed doors in a couple of days. We got media access tomorrow and Wednesday, Jeff. And then after that, it's time to lead up to game week, and next time we'll talk to Dan Mullen will be on Monday, as it is a game week. Yes, the season starts last Saturday coming up without college football. And then we roll it out week 0 with a handful of games, and UNLV and Memphis is one of the top games on the board. They are going to be on Big Fox as Tim Brando and Devin Gardner will be on the game.
It's the biggest game of week 0 by margin.
Well, now that we've seen, and we'll build on this throughout the show, we've seen the AP Top 25 come out, and I don't take a whole lot of stock in it because last year was wildly inaccurate because it's very much a guessing game, and it's crazier now than it's ever been. Memphis is a top 10 group of 6 program. I don't know if there'll be a top 10 group of 6 program this year. A lot of that's going to depend on the transition to a new coach. They lost their coach. I like their quarterback mix. I don't know who's going to play, if both will play. So on Saturday, I was talking to Dan Mullen with the rest of the media and started asking him about the Memphis coach. Charles Huff said the other day to his media group that, hey, you know what? I'm not going to tell you who's starting, and you're going to find out in Vegas on opening night.
I wonder if he knows, or maybe we'll see. Who knows? We'll see. I wouldn't. I mean, if they don't have to, why would you?
What's the scouting process? Like, who starts to deep dive on the quarterback strengths, and have you looked at it for weeks?
Yeah. That's something you do in the spring and the summer. We've already kind of looked and broken down the film and all
their
that
quarterbacks.
Of their quarterbacks. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You've all looked at all that stuff. You do that last spring of both of them. Like, to me, whoever starts, and we go figure out what they'll do. And
doesn't seem overly concerned publicly. I jumped in there for clarification. I was like, wait, spring, really? Well, it is game 1 of the season. And yeah, they have enough of a staff that I guess you start scouting in the spring. So the 2 quarterbacks are Marcus Stokes and Aaron Noland. And it's very interesting because both are very highly recruited quarterbacks of the past. Noland had landed at Ohio State to start. Stokes was set to go to Florida, but had some issues off the field, landed at West Florida. Stokes played all year long last year and piled up gigantic numbers at West Florida. Nolan really hasn't played. So you wonder who has the advantage, the guy who's been around big-time college athletics and I guess technically won a national title as a backup, as a deep-seated backup, or the guy who's actually played a lot of football more recently.
Nolan's a lefty, right? Pretty sure he is. So that would be the only somewhat complication, potentially. But, I mean, look, they're both 6'2". They're both about 212 pounds. They're both, again, you have a guy who hasn't played a guy who hasn't played at all versus a guy who hasn't played forget FBS or D1, and played at D1 level. So, look, I wouldn't be overly concerned, too. Just prep for both of them, and you know what? You're probably going to see a little bit of both of them, realistically speaking, right?
Yep.
That's probably what it's going to be. But, again, this is you have the right coaching staff in place for UNLV to be prepared for a situation like this. Let's just go with that.
They do have an advantage being in their second year as a group.
Yeah.
Most of the group is back. They added Mike Shear. They added a safeties coach. They bumped up a special teams coach. You're talking about a new staff at Memphis, which is, I think, a disadvantage with new quarterbacks. Now, Jackson Arnold is a new quarterback for UNLV. Orji had been here, so it's not like the quarterbacks here are way ahead in terms of learning the system. The other hot-button issue I had to get to on Sunday was Mullen's a Visor guy.
Mm-hmm.
You a Visor guy?
No.
Why not?
I just don't like how it feels in my head for whatever reason. It feels goofy, at least to me. People who can rock visors look great with them. I just can't rock it.
John Gruden, Leader of the Visor gang.
Yeah, I mean, if you look good in the visor, more power to you. If you feel comfortable in the visor, more power to you. It's just not me.
I'd feel better in the visor with like the fake fro than I would now. And then, you know what, now, since I'm balding badly in the back, there's no purpose. I never liked visors.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm not a visor guy.
What's the point? Wear a hat.
Yeah.
Get full coverage.
100%, at least for me, yeah. I'm with you.
So, Mullen's smart. When you're thinning up top, you're going bald, the visor is a dangerous thing when it's 110 to 115. So he's had the visor, check that. He's had the bucket hat on for the entire preseason camp and rave reviews. You'll hear me ask him here about the rave reviews, and a very important question because I'd like to see this bucket hat thing continue.
People are very big on the bucket hat. They want to buy it.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
fashionista.
I'm sure you can go get these right at the Rebel Merchandise store somewhere right now, right? I think we can go get these right now. So I got to protect the top of my head. It's hot out here right now.
Do you bail on the bucket for the preseason? You bring it back for Hawaii, North Texas? What do you do?
Boy, I'm going to have to see, right? Problem is I'm thinning on top a little bit right there, right? So that, the visor sometime, which is fine at home games, doesn't go. I don't know if I could do a bucket hat for a game. I don't know that, but
How'd you put the headset on?
It would be like when I have my beanie, right? I mean, everybody loved my beanie.
Yeah.
So maybe I will go make a fashion statement with the bucket hat on game day.
I don't know that I liked the middle of that comment where he seemed to smear the good name of the bucket hat like you can't be a serious coach with the bucket hat on. He's going to be in Hawaii. That's a road game. North Texas, Denton, Texas. Road game. Hot. Sunny. Are we protecting the dome or are we more worried about fashion, Dan? I'll ask you, is the bucket hat not a serious hat? I've got one on right now. Do you want to laugh at me?
And the exact bucket hat you have on for the audience out there is truly an exquisite bucket hat.
It's a Jamaica hat with what appears to be marijuana leaves all over it.
Yeah, it is an exquisite hat.
I would like to see him wear something like this. Make a statement against Hawaii. Maybe a hat, maybe a UNLV hat with a bunch of lays on it.
I have never owned a bucket hat. You're
an anti-bucket hat.
Let me rephrase that. Actually, I have never purchased a bucket hat. I have had one bucket hat in my life, and it was when I was 7 years old.
Oh boy! And
it was a giveaway at Shea Stadium for a Met game, and somewhere, wherever the photo albums are, there is a very famous photo in our family of me and Mr. Met with me wearing a bucket hat. Mr. Met was not in a bucket hat that day, unfortunately, though, Cofield.
Is it fair to say that bucket hats are for children, senior citizens, and women, and guys who are between, say, 25 and 65, no dice?
I was going to say
Are those the rules? Because I don't follow the rules.
So
I don't have a lot of them. I have about 5 or 6
So I will
hats,
tell you,
more.
like hats, like big ridiculous hats that cover your whole head. The only one that I own like one of those straw hats because if I'm in the sun too long, even if I have a good amount of sunscreen, I will burn. It's just my skin complexion. So I had one in Hawaii that got left in Hawaii because it got destroyed in my spill in my great story where I fell asleep on a floaty in the ocean, and then the next thing I knew, I was careening towards shore. I was okay, but the hat did not make it. And then I have the other one that was bought at a big brand store, and after 6 months, it is falling apart, but still does the job. I think the bucket hats of the groups that you mentioned, the senior citizens is number one, for sure.
Yeah.
Then infants and kids maybe under 6 or 7. I guess under 7 is number 2. And I am kind of with you, unless if it is an extreme circumstance. Doesn't really work for anyone from, I would say, the age of 18 through 64, 65.
Okay. Will you go as far as saying if Mullen was to wear hold on. if Mullen was to wear a bucket hat against Hawaii, that Timmy Chan could look across and go, "What's this son of a bitch doing? He's marking on us.
He might.
He's clowning us.
Now,
he doesn't even take us seriously enough to wear a real hat or show off his hair. It's a bucket hat, like he's got a day at the beach."
Here's the one thing, though.
I don't agree with that.
And I
that
made
could be Timmy Chang.
And I made a big caveat in what I just said. There are extreme circumstances where it is necessary.
Yeah.
Where Mullen talked it out there, where if you are thinning up there, it is no joke. If you get a sunburn on the top of your head here, that's an extraordinary circumstance. Then it's acceptable. It's okay to look a little bit goofy to protect the top of your head when you're thinning. 100%.
Hawaii, North Texas, beginning of the season. You don't want to get a burn early in the year.
Now back to Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, let's talk a little college football, a little boxing, whatever else we want to hit on with Steve Kim. Steve Kim 323 up on Twitter, part of the Fearless Crew, 3 Knockdown Rule podcast. Steve, what's going on? Are you irate right now? Miami's only 7th in the preseason AP poll. What the hell's going on here?
It's just a poll. Win all the games, you're going to be fine. I never really understood the outrage over the polls. You line up and play ball. That's it. It's really, unless you are a Boise State, like let's say 10 years ago, and the positioning matters, right? But if you are in the P4 now, and specifically if you're really in the P2, as long as you line up, play, and you win enough games, and you win some important ones, you're going to be okay. So 7 is 7. It is what it is.
What do you truly think they are?
Look, the expectation is to be back in at least to the semifinals. I think the benchmarks for this program, in my view, Mario Cristobal's put together, I think, a great roster, made major strides. You got to win the ACC now. You got to stop dropping games as double-digit favorites. It's happened too many times. It happened twice last year. I believe it's happened 6 times during his tenure as the University of Miami head coach. I think a lot of that has to do with game flow and game tempo. When you try to shorten games with a superior roster. See, when you play for close games, that's when you put yourself at risk. I think this is a team you should play at a little quicker tempo, try to lengthen the games, come in waves. This offense, I believe, that the offensive line can coalesce, and that is the question. There should be an offense that puts up numbers similar to the one that was led by Cam Ward. And then defensively, if you allow them to come downhill and rush the passer as early as possible with no threat of a run game, that's how you create blowout. That's how you keep yourself from being upset in ACC play. But the expectation, there's 2 things. Number one, you got to get into the playoffs. But first and foremost, win the ACC. Bottom line.
Yeah, I agree with you, though. These are mostly mindless, kind of trivial process of trying to guess at who's going to be good because there's so much movement now in college football. It's harder than ever. Fact is, last year's top 25 in the preseason, 12 of the 25 finished the season unranked.
Yeah,
12.
And beyond that, when you look at Penn State and Clemson specifically, people had them in the top 3 or 4.
Number 2 and number 4.
Right, and they were huge disappointments. So every year there seems to be a couple teams that are overvalued. I look at this, the 6 teams in front of Miami, I think they're all pretty good, though. And so, but keep this in mind, teams like Ohio State and Texas play each other in week 2, right? So there's going to be natural attrition. Miami plays Notre Dame November 7th. So things will always work its way out. Now, the preseason polls, to me, Steve, were probably a much bigger deal before the playoffs because now it becomes perception, a beauty contest, and then it becomes a popularity contest. Here, at least in theory, you make the playoffs, it is about the games.
Yeah, sadly, it actually mattered way too much in the past because some teams couldn't move up enough to get into the select 2 or 4 or even back in my day and your day into the right bowl games, which I hated the bowl system with a passion and split national champions, but I've let go of that. No more anger over that. One more thing on Miami specifically. Steve Kim is with us, boxing expert, college football, great voice on college football. Did Miami lose a transfer in a kid named Cam Vaughn?
Well, Cam Vaughn was a wide receiver, put up some decent numbers at a very bad passing offense at West Virginia. He had some quarterback issues. And look, here's the thing. He's a pretty good player. He can play at a lot of places. Unfortunately, he walked into a situation at Miami. This is probably the deepest wide receiver room the Hurricanes have had since probably 2000, when they had Reggie Wayne, Santana Moss, Andre King, and a guy by the name of Andre Johnson. And I think what happened was, one thing that really did not help this cause is when Darian Mensah went into the portal late, and they also got his number one receiver, Cooper Barkate. That put him back further in the pecking order at wide receiver. The problem is, keep this in mind, Steve, this year there was no second portal window.
Yeah.
So if there was a second portal window, and I mentioned this on a couple other shows that I was on, I thought we'd have at least one or two wide receivers look for better opportunities for playing time. See, now the issue for a young man like Cam Vaughn is, where does he go? He is technically ineligible now to play football this year.
Steve, just going back to the big three on this team of Mensah, Fletcher, and, of course, the brilliant Malachi Toney. Do you think, let's say Miami goes either 11-1 or goes undefeated during the regular season, and they're one of the more prolific offenses in college football. Do you think any of those guys could win the Heisman Trophy, or would it be a situation where all three of them are probably so good that it could be a vote split scenario?
Yeah, that's happened to Miami in the past. I remember in 2002, Ken Dorsey and Willis McGahee seemed to knock each other off. And I think it was Carson Palmer that won it that year with the late run for USC. Here's what I think is going to happen. For Miami to have the type of year that they want, I think it's going to have to be Darian Mensah that's going to be the Heisman finalist. This game runs on quarterbacks, and I think he gives a different dimension than Carson Beck. I think he lengthens plays a little bit better, superior deep ball thrower, and he has a little bit more athleticism. Now, the other thing is I think for Fletcher, he's not going to be that heavy-duty 25-carry running back till the playoffs. And that's what happened last year. They kept him fresh. I think Miami has a very deep running back room. And as for Malachi Toney, he's going to get a lot of touches, although I don't think he's going to have as many catches as he did last year. My perception or my projection is that he has probably three-quarters of the catches he did last season, but for more yards per catch. Because last year he averaged about 11. You want to get him to about 14.5 to 15, and that could actually be less being more. I could see him being an All-American type and getting the Litnikoff Award buzz. But when it comes to if Miami's going to maximize themselves as a team, you got to have Mensah be one of the 5 finalists in New York in early December. Steve
Kim is with us from the 3 Knockdown Rule podcast. I saw a tweet on the podcast account. Today's fighters aren't less skilled. They aren't less dangerous either. They're just more cautious, and that's changing boxing. Did something happen this weekend to prompt that, or what was the discussion?
Well, no, that was a discussion with Antonio Tarver, who we had last week and just was inducted into the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame. It was really not a commentary on anything that took place this week. That show was filmed 7 days ago. But we're just saying that today's fighters fight less, ask for more. And I see a lot of talking, a lot of tweeting, a lot of unkept promises. But I've thought this for a while, and I think it mirrors society. When I was coming up in this business, and so let's say at the turn of the century, or the decade coming off with James Toney, Roy Jones, Mike McCallum, men of that ilk, I really felt like, man, these are men. They're men. I'm not really sure I'm covering the same caliber of men as I was back in 2000, 2001, just to be blunt.
Yeah. Well, with more money comes more comfort, and fights are available even if you don't score knockouts. So it's naturally going to happen, and they don't have a whole system under one umbrella like UFC. Frankly, Dana White, because he has full control of his fighters, can tell fighters who are boring, "I'm not going to book you. If you're not aggressive." That was his comment after the main event this weekend. He said one of the guys simply did not have the killer instinct to go and try to really finish the fight.
And we probably need more of that, to be honest with you. I know a lot of the bleeding hearts aren't going to like it, but at a certain point, when are we going to care about the fans? And that's what I care about. I don't really care about athlete or fighter empowerment, protecting them. I think they're protected just fine. They get paid their money. I think there's a time and place where the consumer has to matter. And boxing has a shrinking consumer base. No one can argue with me. It's been a 30-year erosion that I've seen firsthand that I've tried to warn against. No one has heeded the warnings, and here we are.
Steve Kim is up on Cofield and Company, ESPN Las Vegas. All right, around the NFL, this really has more to do with some stuff away from the game. But give me a read after about 5 days of watching the reaction, seeing more news come out on Jaden Daniels, we think his mom, and this battle over the number 5 at LSU.
If I was LSU until this is handled, I would make Jaden Daniels, I'd make him persona non grata. I'd take him off every wall, every promotional thing that you do. I don't know if I'd melt down his Heisman Trophy just yet, but, I really think that, number one, LSU needs to have a clear policy on what exactly are we doing with numbers. Because numbers, I don't think you can really retire them, especially the single-digit ones. Everyone wants them. There's other ways to honor players in perpetuity. But if Jaden Daniels wants to go down this route, I would placate him and say, okay, Jaden, we will literally never feature your image, your likeness. You will never be on a side of a stadium. You won't be on any billboards, any of that stuff. We will acquiesce to your wishes. Because I think a message has to be sent. LSU was pretty good to Jaden Daniels, too. This was not a one-way relationship. Yeah. So if they want to go down this road, I would placate them. And I give a lot of the LSU former players credit. They're coming out, and they're not taking the athlete side. They're actually using some logic and saying certain things are beyond the individual. This is about the collective and the tradition of a college football program. So that's my take on it.
On the subject of retiring numbers, I mean, you have to be really, really, really special, like an all-time great to get a number retired, like Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. I mean, he did a lot for CU football. All right, give me your thoughts. We got our first look at Deshaun Shedeur battle this weekend.
I thought Shedeur, he was what he was. Some decent moments, but again, the interception, I don't know. I think he's good enough to be a backup. I disagree with those who say he's not good enough to be an NFL quarterback. I don't think he'll ever be a frontline starter. Guys, I like Deshaun Watson. I thought he was pretty decisive with the ball. He looked sharp. The passes had velocity on it. One of the issues they're going to have, though, that offensive line is bad. That is not a good offensive line, no matter who's behind the center. But they still have some decent parts. I think Concepcion is going to be a productive player. I like Dylan Sampson. He broke off that big screen. And Fannin was a very productive rookie tight end. So the parts are there to be at least decent. But just keep this in mind, guys. Professional sports is a business. They have sunk a lot of money and not gotten a lot out of the Deshaun Watson contract.
Last one, 30 seconds. I saw you guys playing a clip of J.J. McCarthy reacting to not getting the job over Kyler Murray with the Vikings. Coach J.B. was reacting to it. What was the rub on that one?
Well, the rub is, what else is he going to say? JB was a little harsh saying this guy just can't play. I just said, hey, look, he said what he was supposed to. I don't see an NFL starter. And there's a theory that without the advanced scouting of Connor Stallions, J.J. McCarthy suddenly can't anticipate plays and defense anymore. Coincidence or not?
I saw you double down on that point by talking about Michigan in general on that team, maybe not putting out the most productive pros.
Well, outside of Blake Corum, how many guys from that draft class have had what you would call above-average NFL careers so far? Not a lot.
Yeah, good point to go out on. Steve, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
I was there for UNLV Michigan, and it seemed like Michigan knew a lot of what was coming. Barry Odom kind of glassy-eyed at the half.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
All right, here we go. 4 o'clock hour. It's brought to you by Battleborn Injury Lawyer. 766-1400 is the number. ESPN Reno, ESPN Las Vegas. James is here. Jeff Parles. It's Cofield. A lot of football to get to. Let's do it.
Battleborn Injury Lawyers presents the Big 4 at 4. Number 4.
Well, Jeff, we actually start with basketball. Stretch run here in the WNBA. What does the Aces' loss against the loaded Lynx mean? They've won 2 of 3, but they've had particular matchups that have not been good for them, especially against the Lynx.
What it proves is that Minnesota's the rightful favorite. What it proves is that they're probably in a category of their own at the moment as well, Minnesota. And, they probably will take, realistically speaking, in the way that everything's breaking down right now, Minnesota's going to be the 1 seed. And it kind of depends how Golden State does with those 3 extra games that they have on what the rest of the seeding, really from 2 through 7, maybe even 2 through 8 even, is going to end up being, if you think those teams that are behind can make a little bit of a push down the stretch. But look, tomorrow is a relatively important game for the Aces. You're playing Atlanta, who I think is still a title caliber team, even though, they had 2 easy cracks at the bucket yesterday to win that game, and neither were made. And one of them played into what people have said about Angel Reese for a while. But look, we'll see what the rest of this ends up being for the Aces, but everyone's chasing Minnesota, and the Lynx should be looked at and are the correct favorite right now.
What did you make of the coverage that Indy's 95-91 win over Atlanta got?
Well, when I went to Google today, because sometimes I'll just do this in my prep, and I just type in either the sport to just make sure I didn't miss anything that happened or whatever. So type in WNBA. The first 2 stories that I saw, and this is not my algorithm because I checked it also on another technological device in my house that was not linked to any of my accounts. And the same thing popped up. And it was 2 Fox News stories. One of them was on the ESPN article that they wrote on Angel Reese about the quote-unquote rebounds. And the other one was about Enes Kanter trolling Angel Reese after the missed layup yesterday. If those are the first 2 things that are coming up on a Google search when you type in WNBA,
Yep.
What are we doing here again? How has the WNBA screwed up this PR thing so badly? And that goes back to as simple as your coders are doing a bad job, right? It's as simple as that. So, yeah, it just, and all I saw, I didn't see anything on how the Fever won the game in overtime yesterday. All I saw on my social media yesterday was the 2 missed bunnies at the end on that last possession for Atlanta. That's all I saw. I didn't see anything else. I didn't see anything on that Caitlin Clark had another amazing game. I didn't see that at all. All I saw was people mocking the 2 missed layups at the end by Atlanta. Again, it is a league that has been devoid of leadership, and they've managed to screw this up so badly that can happen on Google. That is a Google search, and those are the top 2 stories at about 9:30 this morning. Can't happen. Can't happen.
Number 3.
Well, I slugged this one. Good signing. I didn't mention the player.
I know who you're talking about, at least.
At least we had the description, all the different things. I guess we could play a game with the audience. 2-time Super Bowl champion, 7-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, 203 games, 138.5 sacks, 27 forced fumbles, 9 fumble recoveries. That is the career resume of one Von Miller, who signed with the Cowboys for $5.5 million in a deal with incentives that could get him up to $7.5 million. Good signing by the Cowboys. He's 38.
Is he capable of doing anything anymore? I had to legitimately look up who he played for last year, before the show. Had to look it up.
He actually had a productive year with the Commies. He had 12 games. They got in. He had 9 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. As a specialty player, it's probably worth it.
You know what? If you can get that, that's totally good with me. Again, the Cowboys have, there is a path where Dallas is the second best team in the NFC this year. There's a path. I'm not saying it's a wide path, but there's a path there for it. Eagles go backwards a little bit. Seattle struggles like when we had Dustin Swedelson on last week, where, you know what, they lost a lot of guys in that secondary. Clint Kubiak's not there anymore. Maybe Seattle regresses a little bit against a first-place schedule and more tape of Darnold up as a starter again. You know what? That defense still needs a little bit of help. Why not? I question that he has anything left, but an incentivized contract for a guy who is a Hall of Famer, And I didn't realize the numbers were as good as you mentioned, Cofield. Like, I would take that in a heartbeat if I'm Dallas. At 9 sacks and let's say he plays 15 games, you're signing up for that today. So, low risk, high reward for what you need out of him for Dallas.
Dallas last year, number 2 scoring offense in the NFL at 27 points a game. Number 30 scoring defense. And number 32 overall. Actually, I think they were number 32 scoring defense and number 30 overall yardage defense. Get me to the middle of the NFL. Right? All of a sudden, is that an 11 or 12 win team?
I don't even have to get to the middle. Give me to 20. Give me to 22 on the yardage. I don't care. Look, give me to the middle on scoring and give me the low 20, the low 20s, or I guess that would be the high 20s on that for scoring for yardage. And you're looking at a team that's winning the NFC East this year. Again, I don't like Washington. I don't like the Giants. I have my questions with Philadelphia going into the year, especially with a first-time play caller in Mannion.
Number 2.
Aaron Donald continues to work out, try out for the Rams. What is happening here? What is the need to even do this?
You tell me, Cofield. You tell me. Because, look, Aaron Donald retired after the 2023 season. His Super Bowl championship, I mean, I know Cooper Kupp won the MVP of the game, but Aaron Donald was the MVP of that Super Bowl. Let's be real. Made the play at the end, was the best player on the field in that game. I don't understand the need for this. He also pushes his Hall of Fame clock back. Didn't bother Phillip Rivers last year, obviously. But I don't know. I don't get this. And for the Rams' perspective, you know what? From the Rams' perspective, they are at least well run enough that this is not a distraction at all. So you can entertain it and it doesn't take away anything from what you're doing. And I think the Rams are by far the best team going into the year in the NFL. I think they are clearly the favorite. Again, football can happen, injuries can happen, and the Rams we could look up and like, wow, the Rams went 10-7. What happened to them? But I don't get this from honestly from Donald's side more so than the Rams side. Like, the Rams are not going to say no to him. I know he hasn't played since 2023, but he kind of would have to be silly to not think Donald could at least play and be probably. He's not going to be the best defensive tackle or best defensive player in football like he was even when he retired, but still be a darn good interior lineman in this league. Probably Pro Bowl caliber, even with sitting out 2 years.
By the way, did you see my guy Simpson?
He looked great.
You hated that pick.
But we're not.
You hated that pick.
I'm not.
Preseason means everything.
I am not giving you a crown for that one, Cofield.
I don't want one. It's way early.
He looked good. He looked good. But again, like, if there was any place for him to succeed with that coach, like, it would make sense, right? Makes sense with that coach. Still thought it was crazy that they used that high of a draft capital when you have maybe 2 years max of Matthew Stafford left. But if he's going to be good anywhere, like, that would make the most sense.
15-19, 188 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, we'll go back to that moment where they took Ty Simpson in the first round. I think Les Snead looked at a situation where they're not going to have a high pick for a long time. And if they like this guy, they wanted to get a quarterback prospect in the fold. And, yeah, he'll be at least a 1 or 2 year project if Stafford stays around, so he doesn't have to play. Well, and I know they need help right now, but you can see there are creative ways when it's, F them picks and F the cap that you can get help.
Well, it's kind of the same reason that, like, when Green Bay took Jordan Love, they loved Jordan Love that much. Even if Aaron Rodgers plays another 3 years, we didn't want to miss out on the guy. It's the same theory. I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but if there's ever, I would not have done it, especially with the fact that I think that, again, the Rams, and it just shows how good the Rams are. Even with that, the highest first round pick they've had in forever is not going to, hopefully for their sake, doesn't take a snap this year. And they're still clearly the Super Bowl favorites going into the year. Shows how good your team is.
Number 1.
Interesting. I heard a conversation today on SiriusXM NFL. They're out at Falcons training camp, and they were talking to Stefanski, and Pat Kerwin kind of likes the machinations of the game, right? The roster build, because he worked in an organization forever, and he's been a TV information guy behind the scenes forever, radio guy as well. And he was asking Stefanski about, hey, the offseason, you pretty much know your entire roster outside of about maybe like a half dozen spots going into training camp. Is that true? He said, you know like 45 of the guys. Stefanski's answer was interesting because he said, well, the next 2 weeks are really important because, yeah, the number's pretty high of who we think is going to be on the roster, and we think it's mostly set, but we have to get through the next 2 weeks and injuries.
Yeah.
And that is a factor for all NFL teams. You have this balance of shorter preseason. You don't have a lot of lead time into the bulk of the games because you have less games. These guys have to play a little bit, but then what happens? You get injuries. And I'm not saying the Falcons had some major injury, but it doesn't sound good for the start of the season for Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, for the Cardinals' perspective, I mean, I don't know why he was in the game as long as he was on Thursday. It made no sense. I mean, it was clear he was the best player on the field on offense, even with how efficient the offenses were. I don't know. It's just so bizarre to me. And I had my questions of Mike LaFleur going into this year as a head coach. Like, he was a pretty average offensive coordinator in his one stop with the Jets. He got scapegoated because they needed to get rid of someone and they wanted to placate to Rodgers by bringing in Nate Hackett. And Arizona's offenses looked pretty solid through 2 weeks in the preseason. Carson Beck looked awesome in the Hall of Fame game, but you can't play Jeremiah Love too long so he gets hurt. I understand that this could happen in a practice, like we saw Breece Hall today have an injury scare in New York. We see injuries all the time, but the optics are bad when your number 3 overall pick suffers a high ankle sprain in a preseason game when he was in there for the whole first half. Bad optics. Doesn't look great. And Stefanski's right. It's football. It can happen on the field in the preseason game, and it can happen on the practice field. Guys get hurt all the time. So, also, by the way, talking about an offense that did not look particularly good in the preseason. No bueno from anything from Atlanta last weekend.
On the running back front, I also just saw the note come across that Kyle Monangai, who was a very productive running back for the Bears last year, is out multiple weeks with a hyperextended knee, which is not good news for Caleb Williams because while they have a lot of weapons at receiver, they really need to be a run-based team, and they still have DeAndre Swift. But, again, that guy rushed for almost 800 yards and really came on at the end of the season for the Bears.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
Cofield and Company, ESPN Las Vegas, ESPN Reno on, how's it August 17th already? How are we already this far into the calendar? Again, week 0, Rebels and Memphis Tigers, less than 2 weeks away. How about that? Ever so closer on football. By the way, so we'll talk some baseball here in this segment. Jeff Parles, Cofield will be back in a moment. The Dodgers, I've got to go there first. Because as we all declared, that baseball is done. It's over. The Dodgers have ruined it. They got Tariq Skubal for nothing. Conspiracy theories. The Tigers just wanted to send Skubal to L.A. so they win 3 straight, and the owners have better negotiating power over getting the deal they want, or the majority of the owners. Even though this whole thing with Mark Walter might actually play a role moving forward. But the Dodgers right now, they stink right now. They stink. They're 5-10 in the month of August. 5-10 is not good. I'm no mathematician. That's 1 out of every 3. That's a .333 winning percentage. It's not good. Now, look, they're not going to blow the NL West or anything. The Padres are basically playing as well as they humanly possibly can right now. The Diamondbacks are 8 back. Padres 7 back. Dodgers aren't going to blow the division. They might blow the 2 seed, though. Technically a half game behind Atlanta because they have one more game played. But Dave Roberts finally went after his team after losing that series to Milwaukee over the weekend. Roberts, quote, has been cumulative. It's been a long time since we've been consistent offensively. Pedigree, what we typically do is control the zone, grind out of bats, create stress. We're not doing that. It's been about 6 weeks of below average offense. The Kyle Tucker signing's been a disaster. Again, the Dodgers can withstand that because their roster's so good and they can withstand the bad contract money-wise. Edwin Diaz is an ERA that's in the double digits right now. That contract hasn't worked out. By the way, Kyle Tucker is now hitting 189 at Dodger Stadium this year. Is that good? OPS is below 600. It's barely over 500. There's no Mendoza line for OPS, right? No Mendoza line for that? It has really been wild how bad Tucker has been. Now, just want to say this on everything with the CBA that's definitely being negotiated right now. Well, or not even being negotiated right now. It should not matter if the Dodgers win the World Series or not what happens this offseason. Again, I have been very anti-cap. I don't think baseball needs it. Do you guys know out there who have the two best the two best records in baseball right now? The Milwaukee Brewers and the Tampa Bay Rays. Do we know what the payroll numbers are for those teams for this year? It's 19 and 23. 30 teams in the league. The Brewers have a smaller payroll than the Royals and the Angels. Oh, and by the way, the second division leader right now in the American League is the Chicago White Sox. They're 25th in payroll. So I don't want to hear the nonsense of you can't win if you can only win if you're spending money. It's nonsense. It's always been nonsense in baseball. The team with the number one payroll stinks. That's the Mets. So I don't get it. Again, this whole thing is aggravating to me. This whole CBA nonsense that's going to come about in this offseason. It's just ridiculous, the whole thing. By the way, real quick on other baseball notes. It's only downhill for Cardinal rookie Joshua Baez. It's only downhill from there. Major League debut on Saturday. First at bat, dinger. Second at bat, dinger. Third at bat, Oppo, dinger. That's 3 homers and 3 at bats. Off Matt Boyd, by the way. Off the same guy. Don't know why Matt Boyd was allowed to face him a third time. It's all downhill for Mr. Baez from here. First player in Major League Baseball history to hit a homer in each of their first 3 at bats. Like I said, all downhill from there. By the way, the Cardinals are not out of it in the National League race. That's another team with a bottom 10 payroll. Again, these races for these, well, the NL one is at least the teams are half decent. The AL playoff race is an abomination of humanity. The Baltimore Orioles at 61 and 63 and a negative 26 run differential are currently the final wild card in the American League. Hey, I could still be right with them representing the AL in the World Series. Could still be right. Blue Jays and Tigers, 4 games under, a game back. Twins and Guardians, 5 games under, a game and a half back. The Seattle Mariners, who have been the biggest disappointment in the American League by margin. 7 games under 500, 2.5 back. What are we doing here? Honestly, it would never happen. But they should make, if a team, it won't happen in the next CBA. But if a team makes the playoffs and they're under 500, they should have to win all 3 games in the wild card series. Like, you have to win the series 3-0. The third division winner should just have to win 1. But the problem is with this year, the Astros are currently leading the AL West. They're 63-62. It's a joke. American League is a joke, which kind of makes how bad this has gone for the A's look even worse. I mean, the A's are 49-75. The run differential is only -174. By the way, it's the battle of the bottom. And Kaufman starting this week. Royals are 51-74. A's are 49-75. A's are 11-37 in their last 48 with a team ERA of 5.5. A's bullpen has got a 5.7 ERA and 24 blown saves on the year. Noah Cameron pretty good on yesterday though. Complete game 1 hitter for the Royals. Really not much to say on that. No Rooker, no Langoliers, no Soderstrom, no Kurtz. And it doesn't really work. Mason Barnett and Michael Wacha is your matchup tonight. If you want some positive news, you might see Denzel Clark by the end of the year. He starts his rehab in Vegas tomorrow. I guess that's positive, right? I don't know. It just really has been an awful. The thing that made this worse for the A's, like the first 2 months were not bad. Like, you could see, all right, you know what, if the AL West stinks, just hang around 500, give yourself a chance. You're giving yourself no chance. 714 runs by the pitching staff allowed. And it's August 17th. By the way, they're the worst in baseball. The only team that's given up more is the Rockies. Has given up more than 700 is the Rockies. And I guess, Sacramento has kind of turned into Coors Field American League, right? But still brutal for the A's anyway. You slice it here. By the way, a few other baseball notes. Tommy John passed away on Sunday. So, this was floating around on social media over the weekend. And just want to bring this up. Tommy John did pitch for a very long time. He pitched for 26 years. Or over 26 calendar years. Of course, his name is the namesake of what you could argue is, other than the ACL repair, the most important surgery in the sake of longevity in professional athletes' careers. ACL tear in football, ACL rehab in football and basketball, probably number 1. Or you could argue the Tommy John surgery is number 1 with the amount of pitching careers it saved. Because your career was over if you blew up your UCL before Tommy John surgery. And now it's 35% of Major League Baseball pitchers have had it at some point in their career. Tommy John won 288 games. I don't care that he played over 26 seasons. He almost won 300. How is he not in the Hall of Fame? Just on the importance of the surgery alone. Now you could argue that Frank Jobe was the one who did the surgery. Like you could argue, hey, he should be in there too. He probably should be. Probably should be. Just the amount of careers that have been saved by Tommy John surgery. And the fact that, Tommy John had a good career. His career, any way you slice it, it was a good career. CRA was only 3.3. It's not like we're talking about a guy who pitched forever and CRA was almost 4. It's not like we're talking about Jamie Moyer here. Sorry to throw Jamie Moyer under the bus, but Jamie Moyer, who pitched for almost 30 years in an ERA of 4.2. Rich Hill is better than Jamie Moyer was. But it's kind of silly to me that he never made it into the Hall of Fame. Kind of silly. By the way, when we come back, the only reason Jamie Moyer just got a mention, I was watching ESPN Jeopardy over the weekend. I watched 5 episodes. I think I could have won 4 of them. Maybe 3 of them at least. 3, definitely 2 of them. Maybe pushing 3 or 4. Discuss that next. Cofield and Company, ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
State guy.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
All right, we're about 25 minutes away from talking to UNLV Rowan Rebels coach Josh Pastner about the schedule just released last week, so we'll get into that. Also, maybe one more, a couple more roster tweak down the stretch here. We'll see. News in about 6 hours ago that Jaden Henley, a former running Rebel with Kevin Kruger, he moved on to Grand Canyon last year, had a very good season. 18 points and 5 rebounds, about 6 rebounds a game. He's going back to GCU. So that will make the Antelopes pretty dangerous. So we'll run that by Josh Pastner. I'm not trying to bring him down, just tough competition in Phoenix in one of the newer schools in the Mountain West Conference. I had someone introduce me over the weekend, a friend introduced me to one of his friends and said something to the effect of, like, Steve knows everything about sports that you can know, and I'm like, not really anymore. I've slipped quite a bit. I try. Could I go on a show like Sports Jeopardy or ESPN Jeopardy and do okay? Maybe. I'm not nearly as sharp as I was, say, 20 years ago. I haven't watched this yet. Have you watched it?
Oh, I watched 5 episodes, Cofield.
5?
Watch 5 episodes. Now, you could ask my wife how aggravated I was by the 4th episode of Sports Jeopardy. And I was genuinely angry. There was one point during the episodes where 10 straight questions were not even attempted to be answered. 10 straight questions. Now, they were in triple jeopardy, so they were slightly harder, but I still got 7 of them right. So I would have won that episode. There were other episodes where I would have, the 5 I watched, okay? I feel pretty confident I would have won 2 of them. That one for sure. I mean, the final Jeopardy question was, all right, you know what? I'm going to open this up to both of you guys because the question was on managers, okay?
I'm not a good trivia guy anymore.
Okay. But I think you both should be able to get this. The question was along the lines of what manager won the World Series with the Texas Rangers after beating them in 2010 for his first World Series championship managing a different team.
Bruce Bochy?
And the answer to that is Bruce Bochy with ease. No one knew it.
Who's on the show?
It's a lot of ESPN personalities. And the most impressive showing so far from anyone was from John Hamm and Keegan-Michael Keel. Known ESPN personalities, by the way, those two, obviously.
Yeah.
So John Hamm and Key have been the 2 best people. And I'll give Peter Schrager his due. He was good, too. But of the 5 episodes I watched, the 2 most impressive people have been non-ESPN people.
I didn't know about John Hamm. I saw
John Hamm won, not to spoil it, but John Hamm won his preliminary episode because Key made a math mistake on Final Jeopardy.
Oh, well. I've seen Key do an interview, I think it was last year, and apparently he's a gigantic Detroit fan.
Yes, huge
And
Detroit
I was
guy.
actually kind of blown away by his depth of knowledge. He really follows sports.
He knew stuff. Ham knew stuff, too. Yeah. Ham's a St. Louis guy, so not much else to do in St. Louis other than follow sports.
What's the deal on the show? How long does it go for?
The run's already done. Like, all the episodes are on Disney Plus, Hulu, whatever streamer you watch. So I will be watching them through the rest of the week. I will report back to you when I'm on later this week to see how many more episodes I think I would have won.
Do you want to go back and make it harder on yourself and go watch old episodes of Stump the Schwab?
So
I don't remember if that show was hard.
That show,
I'm like the only person who was annoyed by Howie Schwab.
To me,
everyone else thought he was like the most lovable guy, and I was like, yeah.
To me, that show is much harder than this one.
Yeah.
Much. So And those also weren't ESPN personalities competing against Schwab.
So are these personalities now going to get dragged because
They won't, because I don't think enough
like,
people.
oh, what happened in the old days when they could answer all the questions?
Yeah.
It's Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas and ESPN Reno.
Cofield, Parles here on this Monday. I'm going to make a statement and quickly reverse course. It's a compliment.
Oh, boy.
I felt like towards the end of the Raiders... Actually, no. The Raiders offseason, it got a little clunky in this market for media coverage because a bunch of media people left for other jobs or got fired. Now, Jesse from Silver and Black Sports Network was doing a great job, but there wasn't a lot of Twitter content. And my God, if you love the Raiders now, between Jesse and some other folks, the coverage of Raiders practice is unlike anything I've seen. Jesse's up with us here on this Monday. Jesse, how are you?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Well, I wanted to pay you a compliment and several other writers a compliment, and also the Raiders a compliment. I was looking at your notes, and we'll go through some of them here in a couple of minutes about red zone touchdowns and Kirk Cousins' success and lots of details. Isaiah Palamau, interception on Kirk. And I'll say, first of all, the Raiders, I think, are very cool that they don't clamp down on you guys because as we saw last week in college football, Colorado came out with some rules around Coach Prime where it was like, you're not allowed to say anything that you see in practice at all. So kudos to the Raiders for being pretty open and allowing you guys to go and cover them and give out some details.
Yeah, I would say they're probably like middle of the road in terms of what they do. And like, I love the PR staff there. I'm not just saying that to like save face or anything like that. Like, there are some teams that kind of let you shoot everything. And some of that video is out there. I think they've towed the line pretty well on what we're allowed to do and not do. We're not allowed to give like live play-by-play. And I think that makes sense. Like, why do we need to do that during when we can give a recap after the fact? So, yeah, they're pretty good. And this staff, honestly, look, it's a new staff. They don't want a ton of, like, their stuff out there, but they're good about what we can and cannot say. Like, it's very collaborative, I think, and it hasn't been just like a nope, can't do this, can't do that. And to your point, like, it's a great time on the Raiders beat because, like, there was a void with the Athletic leaving and Vic Tafer and all that stuff and Tashawn Reed as well. And Sam Warren stepped in and become a really great source for Raiders fans. He's awesome, former college football player at Syracuse. He's done a great job. Brian McFadden at ESPN, obviously, and then all the other sources that have still been over there for years as well. So to your point, yeah, it's an awesome time to be on the beat, and we got a lot of people that really love football and really know what they're doing on the Raiders beat. So it's exciting as this team kind of looks like it's heading in the right direction.
Not taking shots at anyone because I've already shouted him out. Sam Warren is a major upgrade, and I can hear, just like with you, a little more of that football background in his reporting because, like you said, he was a walk-on at Syracuse. You played college football, so it does certainly help to understand what you're watching and then pass on the message. Now, the flip side of that is I often think as I'm watching UNLV practice that I don't even know if people need to know all of this or want to know all of it, but my guess is I'm wrong on the want to know all of it. Like, there is such a hunger for any sort of freaking detail, especially when football first comes back, that people are just gaga over finding out that someone left practice or, like you said, Fernando had 2 touchdowns in the same red zone session.
Yeah, there's some people that care about like the nitty gritty details of like, okay, how many times, have they been in 12 personnel or, what's their motion rate and all that stuff. There's other people that want no part of that. They don't know what the heck 12 personnel is. They don't want to know who's injured, who's not. Like, you have to kind of toe that line between the two things. So yeah, it is kind of cool though, because you can appeal to a bunch of different fans, the folks that are like the casuals. And I don't mean that as an insult. And then also the folks that are like diehard that want to know every single thing. And again, that makes it fun. Like, you can appeal to a lot of people in a bunch of different ways that you cover the team. And I think that's why it's exciting on the beat now, because there are people that provide a little bit of everything to it as well. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, sometimes you're like, okay, how do I actually get this out there with the correct context and all that stuff? Because also too, the thing that I constantly find myself wondering is like, people need to realize like we're pulling a couple plays, from it. And over the course of a game, obviously that translates too. But like, these are situational spots throughout practice where it's like people sometimes live and die off a certain thing. So you have to kind of take everything with a grain of salt and realize that it is in practice and coaches are putting the guys in certain situations, sometimes telling them to throw it into coverage or whatever to give the defense a shot. So it's an interesting ordeal.
Jesse Merrick with us here on ESPN Las Vegas, ESPN Reno, from Silver and Black Sports Network. Okay, find me something negative for Fernando Mendoza in his first preseason appearance.
I think at times, the best word I can use to describe is like happy feet sometimes in the pocket when the rush was coming at him. Like he did it. I liked the way that he has escaped pressure and kept his eyes down the field. I've heard some folks critiquing that, but I think at times maybe he's bailed a bit too quickly, or even too on the opposite end of that spectrum, held on to it a bit too long trying to make something happen. I mean, there were a couple hits that he took in that first preseason game where it's like, hey man, you got to get rid of it. You can't do that in the league. Otherwise, you're going to get killed. And he's a big guy, but he's not like a Josh Allen big guy. And he took sacks early on in his career that he shouldn't have at Cal. So we saw bits and pieces of that in the game to where that could bleed into it. But I think even after the game, too, he said he had a moment where he realized the speed is just different at this level, where he thought he could get the edge. And he's like, well, no, these guys are faster. I can't really do that. So, again, I think it's kind of a learning curve in that area, but that's something that stuck out to me. And then just, again, at times when the rush was coming at him, before he kind of settled in, getting rid of it a little too quick on I think 2 of the 3 incompletions that he had in the beginning half of the game there. That was kind of my assessment. But overall, I was impressed with what we saw out of him in that game.
Jesse, just looking at other young guys in that preseason game, just because I know we talked about it last week, going over to the secondary guys, it was a struggle for those young guys in the secondary on Thursday. Is it just as simple as, hey, McCoy hasn't played football in a year? Of course, he was going to have a little bit of a learning curve coming back in, or is it actual alarm bells need to be rung a little bit on those younger guys in the secondary?
Yeah, I think it's still too early to sound the alarm bells, because again, I just realized that today we've been keeping track of the days of practice. There are 13 days of practice into training camp. That was their first preseason game. And while 2 weeks sounds like a lot, it's really not that much when you factor in a new coaching staff and all that. And I understand they had OTAs and minicamp and everything in the offseason. But for these young guys, they're still trying to figure it out. Then you throw in the fact with Jermod McCoy, like you noted, hasn't played since 2024. I think it's a matter of praise the kid for getting to that point, to be able to even get back into a game and do that. And then now let's see what his strides or lack thereof look like in the next couple weeks and as the season starts. Because it's hard taking that much time off, especially at corner, that requires you to be such a crazy athlete. And I will say, I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody, but it looked like they were having him play a lot of press bail coverage, where down on the goal line, you don't really want to do that. You want to contest those catches, get right up in their grill, and stick with them the whole way. So it might have been something the staff was telling them to do. So I don't know, but at times too, definitely on the goal line, should have covered those a bit better. And you want to see him play a little bit better in those situations and be able to contest those things more. Didn't quite see that from him. And again, you can't make Gardner Minshew and Jacoby Brissett look like Tom Brady, with 16, 17 straight completions to open the game. That's a bit alarming, but also too, at the same time, the D-line needs to get home. Even though they're running a lot of quick, 3-step type of stuff, you have to be able to get home and create a rush. And they haven't been able to pop Max Crosby in there over the years, and that popped up again. And I think that, honestly, is the more alarming thing than the corners. Got to give them a help, got to figure out a way to generate pressure, and that could come as they crank things up defensively and maybe do a bit more. They were super vanilla, so maybe that comes. But to me, the bigger thing was hey, where's the D-line at in this thing? They got to be able to get some pressure to help their guys out a bit more.
By the way, Jesse, I know this is not a Raider question, but why was Jeremiah Love in the game so long?
Man, I had that question up in the press box. We were all wondering, too. We're like, what's he still doing out there? It's crazy. I had multiple people throughout the game texting me, Jeremiah Love's the real deal. And this was throughout the game. And I'm sitting there thinking the same thing, wondering, why is he still in there? You already saw what you need to see. Rest that kid. You're going to run him 50 times a game. Obviously exaggerating, but he's going to get the rock a ton. Don't feed him that much. And obviously we saw what happened there.
Let's go to this week. Joint practice begins with the Texans down in Houston. This is a nice opportunity for everyone on that Raider offense to go up against one of the best defenses in football, even with it just being a joint practice.
Yeah, massive opportunity. I mean, over the years, when I've talked to players and covering teams and stuff in the league, they all say that they get more out of those joint practices than they do the preseason games, just because opposing coaches are much more willing to show more of their playbook, dive deeper into the playbook, get more creative, defensively with blitzes and different coverages and how they disguise and stuff like that, because it's not out there for the world to see during those team sessions, as it is in the preseason. So that's the thing, is like you get a more realistic look, I guess is the best way to put it. So for Fernando Mendoza, whether he continues to go with the twos and go against the twos, or if he does get first team reps against the Texans, like amazing opportunity to be able to go and match wits with D'Amico Ryan's out there, one of the best coaches, young coaches and up and coming coaches in the league, and kind of what he's done, especially from a defensive perspective. That's going to be huge for him, but for everyone too, because again, like we leave the preseason game, we were feeling pretty good about the corners for the Raiders entering that preseason game. You leave it kind of like we talked about, and then also too with the same vein, well, if their corners were having that much success in practice, it didn't translate to the game. Makes you wonder as well about the receivers and the lack of production from most of them outside of Jack Besh there. So like that's something to keep an eye on too. Like these corners, these receivers need to have a good showing against the Texans, and this is a good opportunity for them to kind of potentially take their game to the next level as well.
Jesse Merrick, Silver and Black Sports Network. All right, latest podcast. Max Crosby was at it again. What?
Yeah, he was tearing practice up. This was not today. It was yesterday. He, I think, had 3 sacks and a pass breakup. Was kind of giving it to DJ Glaze that day. He's kind of taken turns with either DJ Glaze or Colton Miller in terms of having big days. But I will say they responded today, handled them pretty well. But that was the back at it again. He did bump in, or he ran DJ Glaze into Kirk Cousins. Kirk did end up on the ground. And there was the whole, obviously, the scuffle from earlier last week when they got into it and they got, quote-unquote, suspended, So that was like a little bit of a, whoa, what's going on here? So he probably needs to cool it in terms of getting too close to the quarterback. But that's what the back at it again was him, was just kind of impacting and wrecking practice, for lack of a better word. We've seen that from Max from time to time. But I would say today at practice, a better response by the offensive line to be able to contain him a bit more.
Traden Stukes and his extended run with the ones.
Yeah, he's getting more and more opportunities. This is a kid that I think we all thought would probably be the safety, a safety of the now for the Raiders. They had been working him a lot at nickel and safety with the twos, and we hadn't seen him get a ton of opportunities. I thought maybe in the preseason game when the twos went out there, he would be the primary nickel. That was actually Greedy Vance, and now he's getting more opportunities working as a safety with the ones. Really interesting to see the rotation between all the bodies that they have in there, guys that can do a lot of different things. So that's huge because this is a kid that has a very, very interesting skill set, very versatile player, and what he can do. So I had kind of said that they're taking their time with him because what safeties and nickels are asked to do is a lot. So they loaded it up, kind of brought him along slowly, and now it feels like he's starting to make his run. Now I wonder if he's able to lock down a spot or if he becomes a rotational piece with all the safeties they have. I think Isaiah Paul-Mao should be on notice. I think he's a guy that can come in and replace Isaiah Paul-Mao as one of those deep safeties.
20 seconds. Is Brock Bowers okay?
Yes, he was fine. He was wrecking practice again today. Made the play of the day, going up for one, making a one-handed catch with a defender all over him. It got called back because of a holding, but Brock Bowers is fine. He'll be ready to roll as long as nothing happens going forward.
Jesse, tell people here again, still 20 seconds left. Sometimes I have to fib on this, but what do you got coming up this week on Silver and Black Sports Network?
Yeah, so I'm taking a little bit of a break as they head to Houston. I'm not going to Houston, but I will be following everything that goes on out there. So we'll be back at it on Thursday night following that game against the Texans. Myself and Ryan Hogue will be breaking it down. Ryan provides great insight into everything that happens. We did it for the first time in the last preseason game against the Cardinals. Tons of fun, so make sure you guys keep an eye out for that after the game on Thursday evening.
Jesse, thank you. We'll talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. Thanks, guys.
Live from the Findlay Toyota studio, you're listening to ESPN Las Vegas.
All right, big hour of UNLV and Rebel Talk. We're on Rebel Talk. Caleb Herring's coming up in about 25 minutes, color analyst for the football program, co-host of the Dan Mullen radio show. But we wanted to get in another one of the coaches on the basketball side. Lindy LaRock came in with us on Friday to talk about the schedule, and she's got a real aggressive non-con. And Josh Pastner had a couple minutes here on this Monday to join Parles and Cofield. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on. Would love to talk about the schedule. That's why I'm on. I appreciate you giving me a few minutes right before football season hits. It's coming up here, and obviously week 0, huge game, UNLV, Memphis, Allegiant Stadium, Saturday. I think that's the 29th, right?
Yes.
So, but anyway, here's what I would tell you guys. We have 20 home games, okay? 20. And you know what? When I got the job here, people said, hey, you've got to schedule more aggressively. Get better teams coming to Thomas and Mack. That will draw more people in. People will buy more season tickets. And you do that plus winning. Either or, you're going to draw people. But obviously winning's number one, and then two is having a great schedule. We have 20 home games, and if you include the Lee's Family Forum game on December the 12th versus Washington State, that's 21 games you get in a season ticket package. In the month of October 7th, we play Utah, Big 12 team. October 24th, we're playing BYU, a Big 12 team. Then October 29th, we're playing an SEC team in Missouri. We've got Stanford at home. We got Washington State, as we mentioned. We have a monster's home schedule. Plus, we're at San Diego State. Plus, we're at San Francisco. Plus, we're at the Players Era Tournament opening up in Kansas. Get your tickets. Steve, you guys, come fill out Thomas and Mack, UNLVtickets.com, or send me an email and I'll get you connected so you can buy season tickets. Joshua.Pastner@unlv.edu. You get free parking. Where else in the city can you get free parking and attend a game of great entertainment? Our in-game entertainment is going to be up to another level. This is important. This is not my team. This is the city's team. This is the surrounding areas team. This is Running Rebel Nation's team. But we need everyone in Thomas and Mack. We do. We have a great schedule. Get your season tickets. Please, it's important. This is your program. You can make a huge difference.
Josh Pastner with us. That was a good opening statement. As we do on the Coaches Show, I got a lot of follow-ups. First of all, where is the roster right now in terms of being prepped to take on Power 4 schools? I think it's mostly done, but do you have any roster updates with, one, Alan Breed, and then you guys were mentioned as a potential spot for other transfers. And by the way, how does the transfer portal even work now with the 5-and-5 thing?
Steve, I don't even know what's going on. Half the time I'm asking my compliance guy, Justin Campbell, who's a lawyer, like, what does this mean? A stay, all these, because it's not NC2A stuff. It's all through the court systems. You know what I mean? So you're like, can you put this in English? Just straight, English for me, so like second grade level, so I can understand this, because I'm not a lawyer on these things, so it's sort of hard to follow. But in all seriousness, kind of here's where we're at. We have 12 current scholarship guys on the roster. I do have 14 scholarships. Alan Breed, it is not. We're still waiting a final decision by the NC2A. We don't feel confident they're going to pass it, that he's going to get eligible. That's just kind of where we are right now. So we don't see that happening. So we're not counting on, as much as I would love to have Alan Breed here, we're not counting on it just based on the circumstance. We don't see that going through. If he's not here, that leaves us with 2 spots. What will we do with those 2 spots? We are still actively recruiting. Yes, there's these 5, the class of 2022, meaning that the new rule in college athletics is you have 5 years to play 5 years. So you have no longer 4 years of eligibility, 5 years. And that technically started for the class of 2023, which goes into effect next year. However, the class of 2022, the graduating class of high school class of 2022, who just completed their 4th year, they're sued. Lawsuit after lawsuit all throughout the state courts. The state courts have granted a lot of players eligibility. The state of Colorado has also granted them, but then the NCAA has taken the state of Colorado to the 10th Circuit District Court, and we're waiting on what that's going to happen. If the NC2A wins that, then it all comes back down to the state court cases. If the NCAA loses that, then everybody's eligible. That was a senior last year. So, yes, we are still actively recruiting. We would like to get another guy if it's able to. Obviously, you can get a guy, and then a month later he's not eligible either because the courts get overruled or the decisions get turned on appeal. I don't know all the lawyer language talk, but We are not done with our roster, even though we do start school on Monday. Drop add date is the following Friday. So we've probably got, and we have our team meeting Sunday at noon. I would like to have our roster finalized by Sunday at noon. I'm hoping for that. Whether that's we add anybody or we don't, everything is going to be moving here in the next 24 to 36 hours.
Boy, for a guy who doesn't know much about it, you went on for 3 minutes there. What are you talking about?
Well,
a lot of self-deprecation,
I do know. I mean, of course, I was kind of half joking about not knowing a lot about it, but I've kept in the loop on it. And so what could happen is in the 10th Circuit of Colorado, if the NC2A wins that, the players then could go back to the state courts and try to get their names back involved with state courts, and that would supersede that. Secondly, in the state of Ohio today, the initial court case with Ohio players granting that year, the NC2A won that today. So the players in Colorado are no longer eligible based on the state court case, but they're eligible based on the Colorado federal case. So who knows, Steve? There's a lot of moving parts. I actually called the NABC today. The NABC is the National Association Basketball Conference, which for all of coaches, especially in the college level, high school level. And I called him. I said, "Hey, this is getting to be completely ridiculous. Like, just at some point, I am non-gray area guy. Just tell us, is everyone going to be eligible or is everyone ineligible? Like, we can't be doing this for the next 30 days. Just either clear everyone or somehow at this point, this is just not, it's complete chaos. And we just want some sanity in a sense that we've got to have some directiveness of just saying, here's the deal. Everyone's eligible to play or no one's eligible to play. But we're all in between, and I just don't like gray area because when there's gray area, there's less accountability. And so trying to figure it out and sort through it has been an interesting dynamic. So we'll see. It's just you got to be willing to change, adapt, be flexible, wear loose fit clothing, and that's what I'm trying to do in this time. But, Steve, that doesn't change the fact that we got 20 home games, man. Free parking. UNLVtickets.com or send me an email, joshua.pastner@unlv.edu. That no matter what, regardless of the court cases, you got 20 home games, 21 if you include Lee's Family Forum, which is included in the season ticket package, and our first 3 games, 2 Big 12 teams and an SEC team. What more can you ask for?
Coach, I'm happy you circled back there because I was going to ask you about those 3 games against Utah, BYU, and Mizzou. Speak on the importance of being able to play. Look, BYU and Mizzou have really high expectations, and Utah looks to be vastly improved going into this year from a year ago.
Well, you think about it, those 3, first of all, BYU and Missouri have potential lottery picks on their team. Like if you look at the 2027 NBA draft, they have guys listed, multiple guys on the first-round draft board possibly. Utah signed a probably the best player from an Israeli who's outstanding. And I'm not sure if he got eligible or not, but he's really, really good, one of the best players overseas. So they're going to be vastly improved, as you mentioned. They really increased their NIL budget to a very high level, so they went out and got some great players. And so we're going to be really tested early and often in October to allow us to be as ready as possible for November in those first 2 games when we play Northern Arizona at home and then Samford that week. And then the following week we got Stanford plus 3 right in a row of the players era. So Samford is from Birmingham, Alabama. Stanford, obviously, is from Palo Alto, California. But those are our first, after we get through those 3 games in October, then you got those 3, then the players era. So I think the Utah, BYU, and Missouri game will really expose us, guys, in a good and bad way. What does that mean? In a good way, we'll see, okay, we're really probably good in these areas. In a bad way, we're not good in these areas, and that needs to be cleaned up. So we'll be able to have great exposure on the good and bad with our team in the month of October, which I'm happy about as a coach, because sometimes when you're just practicing against yourself over and over, things can get hidden without playing against other high-level competition.
Coach, one other thing that I want to bring up with the schedule, and I know this does not include the 20 home games, but that the road trip, the back-to-back through California, on the hill in San Francisco, and then down at Viejas at San Diego State. I really love that for you guys, because you're really going to learn how to go on the road and play in two really difficult road environments right out of the gate in early December.
Well, think about our December schedule. At San Francisco, at San Diego State. Then a week later, we're playing Washington State, a Pac-12 team, in the Lee's Family Forum. Then a week later, we're playing SMU in Phoenix. That's our first 4 games in December. We've got a monster schedule. Now, is our schedule lined up for who we're playing on our NIL roster budget? Probably no. I mean, you both know that. But we have to challenge ourselves in order for us to be ready for the Mountain West Conference play. And so we're probably, if you look just on NIL numbers, we're going to be playing in above our class weight, and that's just the reality of it. But the great thing is on basketball, you still can only put 5 on the floor regardless of different teams' NIL budget. So this will prepare us, as you mentioned, even the 2 road games at San Francisco, at San Diego State, as we get into Mountain West Conference play. And so our goal is to win every game we play, but the setup in October, November, and December is to get us ready for that opening weekend or that opening game. When we play Grand Canyon, I don't have it right in front of me, but I think we open up with Grand Canyon, the Mountain West Conference play at Grand Canyon, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right on that? I don't have it right in front of me. But
correct.
That's at Grand Canyon. So Grand Canyon could be picked to win the league. So those 2 games on the road at San Francisco, at San Diego State, the thinking in mind is that's got to get us prepared for when we're opening at Grand Canyon to start the season in Mountain West Conference play.
Josh Pastner's with us here on ESPN Las Vegas talking about the schedule. UNLVtickets.com, Run Rebel schedule, non-con and conference is out. One news update, not to bring you down, but looks like Jaden Henley will be back with Grand Canyon, so that was a strong squad, gets even stronger with the return of the 5-5 senior.
But again, that is correct, and that is based. So that's a great example. That he's cleared. He's playing there right now based on the Colorado court case and these other cases. So that's what I'm saying. Some guys like a Jaden Henley, I don't know if he's in a state court case. If the Colorado gets overturned, then only guys who are going to be named in court cases can play, and other ones won't be able to. So some guys might, depending on what happens in the 10th Circuit Court. And here's the other thing to think about. In the state of Colorado, they did not discuss amateurism. All they talked about is the portal window and 5th-year guys in the class of 22 can play. Well, what happens about amateurism? That's going to need to be cleared up in the court case as well, too, because guys who sign with agents that are professional agents to represent you professionally, and or you signed anything else and you became technically professional, by the NC2A standards, you are ineligible to compete. And so that's got to be clarified, too. So, yes, Grand Canyon did get Jaden Henley, who's really good. But, again, that's kind of where we're all – that's why I called the NABC. What are we doing? We got it where everybody can be on the same page or we're not. We've got to figure this out because right now there's a lot of confusion about of who can play and who can't.
I didn't get to ask a follow-up earlier. When you went on your rant with the NABC, did they say anything or just hang up the phone?
No, they agreed with me. They understood. But they understood. They understood where I was coming from. I was very direct about it. They got it. They understood. But they probably don't have as much. They don't have a lot of juice or say to make changes or make decisions. And so, it's just that's kind of where it's at. And we've got to kind of figure this out in a way because things are moving really fast. And for me, at this point, I'd rather just say everyone's eligible at this point because, we're starting in school in a week. So you don't want to take a guy or two and then all of a sudden September 15th, they say they're ineligible. Does that make sense too? I mean, that's not good for anybody either. So that's where a lot of these things are really, real time moving from one area to another, and you're just trying to figure it out on the fly.
Coach, what does it mean for you and for the program to get a chance at a top 5 blue blood in Kansas? And follow up on that, last year's players era, you were a little shorthanded. We don't know what's going to happen with injuries this year, but do you feel like the roster you built is better suited to compete in the players era?
Yeah, I do. I mean, look, to have an opportunity to play Kansas, it's on national television, it's on ESPN. It's great for UNLV. Part of the reason we did the schedule that we did this year is to try to help build the UNLV brand, which is still so powerful, but make it again nationally. That's been a big thing for people that I've talked to here locally, that hey, we got to get this out there worldwide again. And so part of that is, as we talked about, is playing the schedule and then having the opportunity to play in the Players era against a Kansas. So we're excited about that. I do like our roster. I like the roster that we put together. We had more time to put it together in a sense. And I think we did a good job on finding guys who were, as I've said it many times, undervalued, under the radar, and that can be better than what people think, or maybe what better than, they got a chance to be better than their financial aspects. I mean, all those things that go hand in hand with that. So we're really excited about that. I think we did a good job in our evaluation. Steve, we've talked about it many times. In basketball, you got to be so good. You're trying to thread a needle on evaluating and then staying healthy, because the numbers are so small. Whereas in football, you misevaluate or two on a guy, or you have some injuries, other than maybe the quarterback, you could be okay. Basketball, you misevaluate on a guy or two, or you've got some injury, they can crush you. So we feel, we really believe we did a good job evaluating, and we got good players, and now we've got, as a staff, got to develop them and bring them together and have great team chemistry and cohesiveness. And then from there, we've also then, got to stay healthy. And, some of that's out of our control. We do have a couple guys banged up right now. But the good news is, Tyler Harris, as you reported on, Steve, had an MCL injury, required surgery. But thankfully, it was very early, and he'll be back in October. And from our lesson that we learned last year, we will be extremely slow on him returning, because he's a really good player. Tyron Jones, who had shoulder surgery in April, won't be cleared for contact until October. He's doing great, but full contact not till October. Dontrez Williams, his left thumb, had an injury, something with it in a practice. He required surgery, but it was a left thumb. He'll be back mid-September. So we've had some things, so we got to stay healthy. And so, Steve, I've said it. Do we not do any contact and just show up to the games? But as you know, that's just not reality. You got to play, you got to practice, you got to compete. Basketball is a contact sport, and you just pray and knock on wood you stay healthy.
Last one, when you looked around the conference slate, what'd you think with some of the new additions, some of the new road trips? Obviously, as I call them, the disloyal five, or bye-bye. You're only matching up against San Diego State. So what do you think about the new conference? And I did want to follow up. How come you didn't have any matchups against, say, like Utah State or Boise State or Colorado State? Did you at least offer them, like, hey, we'll do a 3-for-1 or a 2-for-1? We'll go there once, you come here 2-3 times.
Well, you know what? A couple things. I think the Mountain West Conference can be really good. I mean, you look at the teams like Grand Canyon and New Mexico and Reno, and Wyoming's going to be really good. San Jose State's got about $4 million this year in NIL, so they've increased. Hawaii ended up, they went to the NCAA tournament last year from the Big West. Always a really tough place to play there. Air Force, new coach. They're going to play faster, shoot a lot of threes. UC Davis, Jim Les has got 250 wins there. They're always tough to play. And UTEP, I mean, they've got some sleepers in there, and as well as anyone, going to El Paso is hard to win at. And so it's going to be a really good basketball league. We're going to have to obviously be at a very, very high level. We are playing San Diego State and Washington State. Washington State's in the Pac-12. So is San Diego State. Some of those other teams you mentioned, Utah State and Boise State, it just didn't work out, with our schedule as it is. And you got to remember, with the 3.5 weeks or so being out of Thomas and Mack due to the rodeo, with the NFR, you have some limitations. And so trying to work around the schedule in that is, you're doing the best you can in that area. And but again, we've challenged ourselves. It starts October 7th. As you mentioned, you get, 20. I don't know if I even told you guys yet. 20 home games. I don't think I told you just yet. 20 home games, free parking, UNLVtickets.com. Send me an email, joshua.pastner@unlv.edu. And the concessions are going to be great, in-game entertainment, and most importantly, we're going to play a great style of basketball on the floor. The fans are going to love their program and hopefully get a lot of wins along the way.
Coach, you're the best. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks for having me on, guys.
There he is, Josh Pastner. Just wish he would come on and bring some energy. Come on now. And yes, he did tell us a couple times before that. UNLVtickets.com.
Now back to Cofield and Company on ESPN Las Vegas.
Back at it, Cofield and Company here on a Monday afternoon. Jeff Parles, and now joining us. We are less than 2 weeks away until you'll hear this guy on the call of UNLV football hosting Memphis in a huge Week 0 game. It's our guy Caleb Herring with us right now. Caleb, it doesn't feel like it's that close, but it is.
It's funny because, like, the whole off season is like, can't wait till football gets there, can't wait till football gets there. And then all of a sudden time stops. You know, like camps are going and it's like, man, 2 weeks seems like an eternity, but it is crazy. It's right around the corner. And once we're in it, we are in it. And the NFL preseason started. So all the wives across America who don't understand what's about to happen, get ready because the SOs are going to be occupied with football for the next 8 months.
You know, I'm happy you brought that up because at least in our house, my wife completely understands the drill starting on about September 5th. From then on, understands the drill through, well, the biggest thing this year, Caleb, I don't know if you know this or not, the Super Bowl's on Valentine's Day this year, which is just a comically bad draw for everyone, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's going to ruin some relationships, but I think it might fortify some. I think it's the women's turn on Valentine's Day to make it a men's holiday, right? Like women across the country, do the right thing, right? Let your husband enjoy the Super Bowl. And if not, enjoy it with him. Make it romantic, right? You know, like things like that. Like it's an opportunity if you look at it the right way. I'm with you. My wife is fully on board with football season. She's asked me which Raider games we're going to already this year. Like we go to Raider games every year. She's like, which ones are we going to? So she's in. Like she's all for it. She lets me go do broadcasting on Saturday. So she's sacrificed her weekends during football season. So luckily my SO is on board. For those of you fellas out there who have to fight every day about it, God bless you. I wish you the best of luck for the rest of this year and into next.
So, Caleb, the AP Top 25 came out earlier today. Again, never want to overreact to a preseason poll, but UNLV was in the receiving votes category, which is a nice step for the program, and a few opponents were also in the receiving votes category as well, which actually plays pretty well for the Rebels this year, especially if they can knock off all of them or even 2 out of the 3.
Yeah, I think it's good. Usually preseason UNLV has to kind of earn that top 25 nod, and that's what they were able to do the last couple of seasons and be in it at some point during the season because they win or because things are going well for the season. So hopefully that is the case. I think there is some people that still have to be proven wrong about, UNLV being a sleeper team and actually being legitimate. So I think it is good to add a chip to the shoulder for UNLV if you want to look at it as bulletin board material, right? Like for guys that think that they should be within the roster. But I think you hit on the more important aspect about this. UNLV got votes for the top 25, which is a good indication that people are taking them seriously. But then more importantly, 3 opponents, including Memphis, which is a Week 0 opponent, New Mexico, which is a conference opponent who had a spectacular season last year, as well as Cal, were also mentioned in the getting votes in the top 25. That makes those opponents quality opponents, and that could speak volumes if UNLV is able to come out with wins in those 3 spots specifically, but especially having a positive season, maybe a 1-loss season against one of those teams would not be a terrible back-breaking loss, right? They could still put together a good season in spite of losing to another top 25 caliber team. That would actually bode well for UNLV when the playoff committee decides who should be going. And obviously UNLV has to take care of the business. Preseason polls don't mean much. Obviously once the ball gets out in the field, a lot of things change. But I think at least from the outlook of things, the strength of schedule or quality of opponent for UNLV definitely exists when you look at the fact that a few of their other opponents are getting nods in the top 25 as well.
Caleb, before we get back to Rebels camp real quick, Memphis's coach, Charles Huff, basically with I'm not naming a starting quarterback before the game a week from Saturday. Just is there anything in the preparation that you think changes now? Even though obviously Coach Mullen said, you know what, I wouldn't have named a starter publicly either if I were him.
Yeah, I think you don't change much of your game plan based on the quarterback who's playing. You would change it based on the system that you're playing against. And I think whoever's out there, maybe at this point, you've recruited all of the quarterbacks, or you've brought all the quarterbacks in that are there, or kept the ones that you liked when you come into a new program, if that's the case, like with Memphis. But when you do a mass overhaul like that with a staff, the system is what you coach against, right? Like Dan Mullen's probably looking at the systems that both coordinators ran, offensively and defensively, for Memphis, to say, this is what they're going to do. We're going to game plan for that. If they've got some sort of X factor at quarterback that completely changes the way they approach, good for them. They got us by surprise. But the way you prepare for a team is to find the team structure, their team identity within their system, and attack that in your game plan. I don't think it makes or breaks, and this is, I guess, advice for any coach. I don't think it should at least make or break your game plan based on one player, quarterback starting or not. I don't think there's vastly that big of a difference in these days when you're recruiting guys specific for your system. There shouldn't be, at least. Like, you shouldn't have one guy that is a complete, triple option quarterback and one guy that's Tom Brady out there. You shouldn't have those two quarterbacks on the roster. Both quarterbacks should be able to run your system efficiently. So I think as an opponent, you just prepare for the system. I bet that's what UNLV is doing, and that's the Mullen approach is we're going to prepare for the system that whatever quarterback's going to be running out there.
Caleb Herring with us here on Cofield and Company. Caleb, the quarterback situation for UNLV, obviously Jackson Arnold in pole position, but what are we looking at right now as we head towards the end of camp?
Well, I think the gap is closed as Alex George has gotten healthier. I think because of his size, his stature, you forget that he was injured, had a season-ending injury last year, and was walking around in a boot for most of that season. To finish things up, and did intense rehab, obviously, to get back ready for fall camp. But I think the gap from spring to now has shrunk tremendously. And here's the thing about there's a lot of coach talk that happens in preseason, and Dan Mullen has done much of the same, and saying he doesn't know who's going to start and all that kind of. And he was true to that word last season. People forget Alex George started the season last year. He took the first snap, so technically he started. And I think if it wasn't for injury, you might have seen a lot more of him with kind of both quarterbacks serving a need for the offensive system. So I don't necessarily think he's just giving coach talk when he says he plans to use both quarterbacks, or you will see both quarterbacks, or he doesn't really know who's going to take the first step. I think that there's a little bit of truth in that statement. But I think the battle has intensified. Both quarterbacks are trying to separate themselves with their play, and the coaching staff is being diligent about it. They're not giving anybody any handouts. That's for sure out there. And the defense, with its improvements, is making these guys prove it. So I like that the battle is intense. I would like it to be decided, but that's just my perspective on quarterbacking. I think there's some time you need to be the guy before the first game starts. And whether that's internally decided and we're just not privy to it, could be the case, but there hasn't been any real indication of that throughout the practices that we've seen so far.
Caleb, how about the guys who are protecting whoever's at the quarterback position? Just a different level of size on the Rebels O-line going into this year.
Yeah, I tell you what, I've been around the program obviously since I played, and then in the years after, I've watched a progression, and it's nowhere is more evident than in the trenches. And I think UNLV has always had skill position guys who could compete with the talent on the edges and were talented enough maybe to be considered Power 4 or SEC or Pac-12, whatever you want to call it, level of athletes. But it's always been decided in the trenches. That's football, right? UNLV has always lacked a little bit in that area. It's just tough to recruit the big-uns up front. UNLV this season has a Big Ten-sized offensive line that they can roll out there if that ends up being who they decide to go with, right? Where everybody is 6'5" and above, over 300 easily, and strong enough and senior enough to look imposing. And I've been out to practice. I've seen these guys. They're massive compared to the years in the past where I've seen like that's the weak spot. You can always find it. That's the weak spot. Now you go out to UNLV practices, it's like, well, no, that's not. It might be a strength this year where they could just bully people in the trenches with that offensive line. So that's going to be exciting to see. And obviously for Jet Thomas, you're excited to see that as well, because with your talent combined with that size up front that could be paving the way for you, I think UNLV has the makings of a team that could dominate on the ground this year. As much as we talked about the quarterbacks this offseason, and Jet just got another accolade. We talked about it coming back from the break, that he's getting another preseason nod. He might be on the way to collect some hardware at the end of the year if he has a big year behind that big offensive line.
Caleb Herring with us right now. Caleb, defensively, again, there were communications issues a year ago on that defense. Definitely looks to be more vocal, especially right in the middle of that defense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot maybe overlooked when you talk about communication on the defensive side. And I've been on, you talk about multiple sports where communication on defense is the key. Basketball most relevant. And I remember being at practices both at the college level and when I tried my stint in the NFL. It was like, hey, communication is key. It's so loud when a good defense is out there playing. And I think Mike Shear said something to me when he was here under Barry Odom at linebacker coach, or his defensive coordinator. He said a good defense, you can close your eyes and tell it's a good defense because you can hear it. And he's talking about the communication, and I think the communication has definitely intensified. And a lot of that might have to do with the fact that Mike Shear is back and he's coaching the linebackers, and it's usually the linebacker's responsibility to get everybody lined up. But I think the overall demeanor and the personality of defense, knowing the system better under Paul Gunther in year two, number one, there's guys that are returning that are in spots to communicate the checks and the calls and getting everybody lined up. But then just the personality. There's some guys with some boisterous personalities. And I mentioned Umu bin Wahad last week, just talking about how loud and active he is. And I think media day, he gave an example of that in the Mountain West where people really took to him because his character, he's got a voice and he's going to use it. He's out there on the defense, and it's loud defensively for UNLV. So I don't think communication is going to be an issue, or at least not as big an issue as it was last season for the Rebel defense getting lined up.
Caleb, let's shift gears NFL-wise. What did you think of Fernando and his preseason debut last week?
I think Fernando was what I thought he was, which is a good, fundamentally sound quarterback who is a master of preparation. I imagine that he is a straight-up football nerd, and I mean that as a compliment, right? The term nerd gets a bad rep, but I think for him, he prepares for every game. And I think the highlight best throw that everybody talks about is when he threaded the needle off the play action fake, I think in the second quarter, into his second series. He just got up and ripped it down the field in between three defenders, and it was like a pinpoint pass and completion and for a first down, all that stuff. It looked great. But what I took from that throw was that's a throw you have to prepare to make. And you have to know that you're going to throw it. You can't be indecisive. Can't be second-guessing the read or the concept. For a rookie to come in with that kind of confidence and make that kind of throw, I think told me he prepared well. And there's other things that I think I would highlight from his performance that let me know he's going to be just fine at this level. It's a tough thing to do as a quarterback, but not getting stuck on a read and a progression. I think he showed the ability to get off of something that just wasn't there and find another option. There's a couple different times where maybe he thought pre-snap that the route was going to be there, but the speed of the defense closed the window before he could deliver it. And then he didn't waste time thinking about the next read. He got straight to the next spot in the progression and was able to either deliver the ball or chuck it out of bounds or throw it, which he did a couple times. But I think showing that ability to not get stuck on a progression, I think is a good sign for a rookie quarterback, especially with the kind of pressure he has. Thankfully, he'll be able to get some of the other kinks out, sitting behind Kirk Cousins and learning from him. But I think he did well for his first time out there. The pressure of that moment at home with the crowd really wanting to see what he could do. He did enough to make people comfortable with him going forward. I would say a B, maybe B minus. Some little things that he could change. But for his first performance, I think well done, and that's kind of what you wanted for the Raiders organization.
Caleb, I would just say I agree with your grade because really for these preseason games when guys who may see the field play, I think the best way to look at it is, hey, did they meet expectations for what you would like to have seen out of their performance. And I thought the Raiders' offense, when Cousins was out there, when Fernando Mendoza was out there, I thought it met expectations and actually was a little bit better than I thought it would be. So, all in all, first half of the game, offensively speaking as a whole, all went pretty well. I'm with you on that BB minus, though, for Fernando.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Preseason games are for this. You call them dress rehearsals, whatever, but we gotten to a point, maybe it's not the point we want to be during the regular season, but we've gotten to a point, let's check in and see where we're at, right? Like this is like the midterm before the final. And you got a couple weeks before the final. So obviously things change week one and you want to be a well-oiled machine by then. But you got joint practices coming up to iron out some things. You've got a lot more camp. You've made the decision now for a starting quarterback, so you can move forward with those reps divvied up appropriately. So ones are getting the ones reps as they should be. So you'll improve still. But that first preseason game is definitely a checkpoint to make sure you're on track. And I think while it's not perfect, it wasn't absolutely amazing. Guys were on track and doing what they're supposed to do. And I think especially when you talk about the number one overall pick, you have the luxury now as the Raiders of taking your time and letting that play out and letting him develop appropriately before you throw him out there. And it's been proven time and time again that's the best way to handle a young quarterback with high expectations, to kind of, I don't want to say shelter him, but make sure he's ready before you throw him out there with the real stakes at line.
All right, Caleb, we got to get to the important stuff now. New menu at Allegiant for this season?
So I'm privy. First of all, Allegiant, when UNLV plays, and maybe when the Raiders plays, well, I've never been in the press box for a Raiders game, but Allegiant has the best menu food available to the press and to the media on the press box level, by far. Not even close. Allegiant knows how to do it. But I've been told I have my birds, my whisperers, if you're going to go with the Game of Thrones reference there. I've got little whisperers everywhere. My birdies are telling me that there's a new menu on the docket for this season, and there's going to be some surprises for the faithful that do get to enjoy and dine in the press box during UNLV games. So I'm excited to see exactly what's on the menu. There is one thing I can guarantee. The famous short rib that is served, and listeners probably just got jealous, like short rib at a football yes. Allegiant has short rib at the football game. That has been slotted for the Reno week. So we're going to have to wait a full season for it.
Oh, man.
But I think appropriately so. When Reno comes in, we want to make sure they understand that we just do things better down here in Vegas.
That's an important one. By the way, one last one on food before we let you go. Is cauliflower steak a vegan option that you would like?
So here's the thing. I'm tempted by cauliflower because I've had buffalo cauliflower before, and it actually worked. I took it, and I was like, okay, it makes sense. So cauliflower has established itself as a vegan option, but I'm not a fan of the vegan option at buffets. And Steve knows this. I can't stand it because it's always like tofu or some weird invented thing, the impossible meat that's not real. I don't like it. So, but the idea of a cauliflower steak has intrigued me, and I'm interested because I know cauliflower is very versatile and it's kind of plain. But I think it's one of those things that if I do try it, it's going to be on a separate plate. I don't want it to disturb the main meal, right? So I don't want my cauliflower steak, if it's bad, touching things and contaminating my good plate with protein. So I got to see, but I might give cauliflower a chance if it's the vegan option.
You know, I will say, I'm happy you brought it in there. When done correctly, buffalo cauliflower is a great appetizer. It is a great appetizer.
And that's what it
done
was.
Correctly.
I think you're absolutely right. That's what I had it as, and it was light enough to where it didn't like impede on the actual meal. And that's kind of what I want. If I'm going to have vegan options, really just a side or an appetizer for the real food, right?
Yeah.
So cauliflower might work as a vegan option. I might try it this year. We'll see.
And that's the most important thing we get from today, though. And I'm kind of with you too. Especially if it's up there for one of those press games, I think I might have to dabble as well. Caleb Herring, hear him every Monday here on Cofield and Company. We're less than 2 weeks away from the Rebels hosting Memphis in a big Week 0 clash, which you'll hear right here on ESPN Las Vegas. Caleb, thank you, buddy.
All right, guys, take care.
Caleb Herring, everyone. All right, when we get back, grab bag time here on Cofield and Company.
Cofield and Company presents Grab Bag on ESPN Las Vegas.
Put your hand in there, dude.
Back with the bag here on a Monday. By the way, a few things have broke while we're on the show. Jordan Tyson, the number one pick of the Saints, who was awesome at Arizona State, but what was the issue? Couldn't stay healthy. Likely 2 months out with a hamstring issue, and he has been dominant based off all reports in camp. So that's a big blow for a team in a bad division that, again, I don't know if I haven't made my official NFL predictions yet. I know who I'm picking to win the whole thing. And I think I know who I have coming out of the AFC. But everything else to get to that, I'm not 100% certain of. The Saints would have been worth a look in the NFC South, but that was more on the fact that their division is horrible and a joke. But that's pretty bad. 2 months out for Tyson, who, again, came in with a lot of injury problems at Arizona State. Back in the bag.
Stick your hand in there, Dave.
Here's another weird one for baseball. Ketel Marte is on the restricted list after no showing tonight's game at Fenway for the Diamondbacks against the Red Sox. By the way, going well for the Diamondbacks, down 7-0 at Fenway right now to the Sox. That is just very, very bizarre. They did not even, the Diamondbacks didn't even post their starting lineup until 15 minutes before first pitch tonight because of this with Marte. So who knows what's going on? We don't know yet. Probably have more clarity tomorrow on this. Oh, also, by the way, the Padres have had 4 guys thrown out at the plate tonight. 4. One of them was a traditional force out, but 3 of them were outfield assists. It's pretty good. Good job by the third base coach in that one. By the way, important game for the Padres, losing 2-1 right now in New York. Back in the bag.
Stick your hand in there, Dave.
You know, just want to throw this out there because we didn't really touch on it. So, the whole Kawhi Leonard craziness that's now been going on for 11 months, the NBA and the Clippers and Kawhi and did they circumvent the cap, all that. The NBA put out a statement today, and there are multiple reports as well that were before the statement of that no evidence funneled from Ballmer to Kawhi Leonard via sponsors. Now, you can take that as, at least in my book, take that as you may. Again, I think there's a lot more going on than just that. It's not that simple. And I think that Ballmer probably was able to cover tracks as well with this. Again, I'm just curious if like the punishment ends up being lacking on all sides. We kind of brought this up last week of how scared was the NBA of the fact that Ballmer is the richest guy in the room or one of the richest guys in the room now. So very curious to see just how that all plays out over the next few weeks. Because, hey, Kawhi Leonard is still technically a member of the Clippers, by the way. That trade with Toronto still hasn't gone through because of everything with this nonsense of this whole investigation. All right, that's what we got for you today. Cofield's back tomorrow. Big thanks to everyone who joined us today. Steve Kim, Jesse Merrick, Coach Josh Pastner, by the way, UNLVtickets.com, and, of course, Caleb Herring as well for joining us here on a Monday. Thank you, JD, as always. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again tomorrow. Cofield and Company, ESPN Las Vegas.